Greetings, gamers. Tim here again, and much to my frustration, this particular set of headphone and microphone have a tiny little button that I keep. It's on the cord, which I keep managing to somehow accidentally hit and mute myself or cut my sound off. So it's kind of, I just did a whole long video and muted myself the entire time without it telling me up here where I can see, because I don't look at it, I look at the camera. I don't have a script. This is all unscripted as usual. Anyway, so not too long back, somebody somebody asked about how I was doing on Google Plus, and I realized I hadn't posted there in a while. I've mostly been hovering around Facebook because I have closer friends there. That's not to say I don't have Google Plus people who are friends, but it has a lot more focused interaction than Google Plus. I love Google Plus for what it does, and in fact prefer it in many ways to Facebook. But Facebook tends to, allow me to connect to people more directly in some ways. And because its friend thing is you get one friend. You rarely, you don't have these big circles that people suggest you join or anything. I mean, there are Facebook groups, but, you're joining for a specific topic that's fairly narrow usually. Like, for example, the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game has several Facebook groups for it, which is kind of interesting for a game that's effectively been dead since 91, 92. And while there has been an excellent clone made called Phase Rip, people still tend to stick with what they know. See, I had this perfect video lined up, and me speaking, extemporaneously without all of my speech being tangled by my tongue. Or at least, I hope. But it was silent when I tried to play it back and make sure it was of at least a decent enough quality to publish, and went, why is there no sound? Oh. And saw that I had muted myself, which might be a good idea for some people. Anyway, so they asked what was going on, how Hearts and Souls was coming, and various other things. And I'm going to tell you, Hearts and Souls has not moved along very much. I keep having ideas and keep going, okay, this would do this, and this, but it would cause this, and this. So weighing it against each other. I mean, the rules are written. What little bit of setting I'm putting in the core book is written, which is a timeline, some monsters that are specific to the universe, aliens, that kind of thing. How to build giant atomic dinosaurs and other things of that sort. Some organizations, that kind of thing. But I haven't been moving forward because I'm stuck on writing examples. I know how it works in my head, but my brain getting that into language is sometimes a problem. And there are also some things that I haven't written that I run into, like I really need to do a chapter on dealing with certain things, just certain social things that happens in gaming that we don't always know or notice. And let me be one of the people who says, look, talk to your players, talk to them as people. If you have a problem with a player doing something, talk to them, find out why they feel they need to do that. Communication is an important thing to have with your players. And I recently found out that is very true in a factual sense. I got kicked out of a game group I've been on and off member of for decades. And it was more, I had a really bad day. I was not feeling very good the prior weekend. And this weekend the next weekend I wasn't feeling much better, but some things, came up that somebody didn't like. While I was trying to have a conversation about communicating with your players to another person who GMs games there. And it blew up. So I'm like, I'm talking to him about something he asked about. Why am I the one being the target? But the truth is, it was just people having bad weeks and reacting to that bad week somewhat overzealously. I got invited back, or actually the host overrode everybody else's vote because it's his house. But the other people are not completely unwelcome that I'm back. It's been strained for a little bit because of different things. And life being stressful for all of us. Not just me. It was stressful for them, and they were having problems, and that all just sort of, crashed into itself. And if we had been willing to talk it out, talk about it, it might, and be honest, to not get angry, it might have worked better. I ended up being invited to another game group, like literally that week, because I have a friend who moved to a nearby town that is basically 15 miles away. And that's right, 15, not very far at all. But when you take into account that my other friends, the ones who are hosting their game, most of them live in the far west, and he now lives in the far east of another town, it ends up being about 45-minute to an hour drive. Closer to the hour, depending on traffic, because traffic is just terrible in this little town. Now, that being said, I live sort of in the middle. So it only takes me, 30, it doesn't take me as long. It's not an hour trip. It is kind of way out there, either game group I go to. But I've been playing in his game group, and his game group is all new players except for myself. He just recruited a bunch of friends and said, let's play a game. And they have adapted quite well. And it's just amazing to watch. Especially when you consider that, none of them had ever played a role-playing game before. Video games, sure. Role-playing games, no. And I think that is great and fantastic. Adding new people to gamerdom is an important thing. And it's something that, like I have a regular game group prior, which, I've gone back to at this point. But I still, I switch weekends with the game group in the other town and this one. Because, I got brought back. And a lot of it has to do with just, communication. We, as gamers, should be ambassadors to others. Ambassador to other gamers, ambassadors to non-gamers about gaming, if it comes up. If someone seemed interested when you mention, hey, I'm playing this game, and this and this and this happened, and they're like, well, that sounds kind of cool. Don't just end the conversation there. Talk to them. See if they might be interested in playing. Now, your group may not have room for them, because I know that the one play group that blew up, and, I'm not placing blame on anybody. We all were stressed. We all had issues. That's it. There's no blame to be placed. But the thing is it's got 7 people. It's just a big group. And that means less time is spent within the individual character, on any individual theme. And trying to balance that out is difficult. But, so keep your games to a size you can handle. I have managed to run games for 20 people. Whether it worked well or not, I really cannot say. I will say that it was silly and absurd, and fun was had, but I don't know if some of the outliers had as much fun as the active people who were like, I'm going to choose to do something, because they didn't talk about it. And that's part of the reason I think we need to be the ambassadors for gaming, is we need to reach out both to our own game groups, to other game groups, to people who are not in a game group but might be interested, and try and build a rapport that is greater than, just the game. Make friends of them. Because I've almost always gamed with friends of some kind. I have also been introduced to new people and gamed with them and thought, no, this is not for me. Nothing to do with the people, everything to do with the game chosen. And I have also sat with new groups with a game and really liked the people and really liked the game, and that fit. But the group before that wasn't a bad group. It's just I didn't like their choice of games. It didn't work for me. So I tell them, this game's not really working for me. If you want to try something else sometime, let me know. I'd be interested, because I like y'all as a group. It's nothing with y'all. It's just that these rules don't feel right for what we're trying to do with them. And, that's the truth for me. It was literally the rules. In this case, it was a version of D&D. It didn't work. There was a version of D&D I ran. Didn't work for any of my players. Savage Worlds did not work for any of my one group's players, because it just felt too fiddly for them. There was too many moving parts. The cards for initiative, the bennies for doing good things. While they could handle one of those, two of them, along with the fact that it was taking a very long time for combat to occur. Now, they had lots of mooks, and they were taking those out left and right, but there was a big enemy on the field. It wasn't technically a mook, but it was a powerful vehicle that they needed to take out in order to escape a situation. And I hadn't intended to put them up against anyone named at that point, just mostly mooks. But the vehicle still upped the power level of the mooks to a point that it was taking a long time to fight. And that particular group of players, who I love to death, I really do, just they don't want to spend that much time on combat. They want it to be quick, unless there's a good reason for it. And I've been trying to squeeze more adventure out of role-playing games lately than combat. Social conflicts, action conflicts. I'm a superhero gamer. I prefer superhero games. But part of that is it gives you the perfect storm of action that you can have that have nothing to do with supervillains or bad guys. Because in comic books, you see heroes all the time, rescuing people from fires, helping stop floods, stopping invasions, which I guess is kind of, combat-y. But usually you have to figure out why somebody's invading and deal with it. It's not necessarily going to be you against the army. Sometimes it's you tracking down why they're invading and talking to them. But there's still action involved in those things. And to that end, I have looked at this game that is an old school rules for old school Renaissance, and believe me, I never can keep that straight. I originally thought it was old school rules, and people are telling me it's old school Renaissance, but I was kind of there when all that started, so I'm like, okay, whatever. If you want to call it that, fine. I'm not that big into it. I like some games. I do still enjoy many old school games like Marvel Superheroes, Phase Rip, but they don't have to be D&D derivatives for me, and they were still old school. But this one is a D&D derivative called Beyond the Wall. And Beyond the Wall places you as young men and women, later age, teenagers who have been in their apprenticeships or learning their tasks in a city, a town they build. And then something comes from the outside to threaten the town, and it's up to them to solve the problem. And a lot of the solutions to the problems are not necessarily fight the monster. Sometimes it's figuring out what the monster wants and either giving it to them or appeasing them in such a way that they give up on trying to achieve, whatever they came to the village to and caused havoc over. And I like that. I like that a lot. I like the fact that the players build the community. They literally put down on a map a place and people, and these are the people we know. Whether they like them or not, that's going to be up to them. But I get to embody those characters. I get to interact with those player characters, and I like the idea of the community. And I've been having a hard time lately because I can't find a science fiction equivalent that I like. So I've been working on one, and that has not worked very well because I do have one player who really is a combat-focused player and will only focus on the game when conflict of that type is at hand. Which is weird, though, because when he doesn't focus just on combat, because he does occasionally burst out, he's a brilliant role player. Brilliant. But he sometimes gets stuck on the combat things. And it's like, please just let it go. Relax. Don't be so tense. You make a much better player when you... And I'll be honest, I think we should be ambassadors for gaming. I think we should be talking about gamers, games, and trying to build a bridge between us and others. And yet, at the same time, I can't really go and talk to this person about that. Not because they're a bad person, not because what they want is bad. Because wanting combat and action in the game is not bad. It's just a different taste. It's like wanting mint ice cream over, chocolate, or wanting chocolate mint over chocolate, or vanilla over chocolate, or anything. It's just you have a slight preference difference. We both want ice cream, but you like this taste and I like that taste. And I will admit completely here that I like action. I do like action. I like conflicts. I like occasional fights. But I don't think it should be all about fighting and looting the bad guys. I'm definitely not into murder hobo gaming. I prefer community interaction. Even if the player characters are wander off, miles away, I want them to have a tie to a community that they might go back to. I want to have them to have the opportunity to do that. And there are lots of ways to do that. I'm not always the best at finding them for a particular player. Which really kills me, because one of the easiest ways for some of my players is to give them an NPC to look after. That NPC could be a child, it could be a girlfriend, but you put that, I put that in a game, and suddenly the swing of the pendulum adjusts just ever so. A swing of the pendulum adjusts just ever so much towards the type of gaming I want, because I bring those characters into play. I bring them to life. I remember player characters in one of the superhero games I ran stopping the big bad guy who is literally trying to take over the world for plants. But unlike traditional take over the world with plants guys, he doesn't dress in a weird costume that looks like a plant. He dresses in armor. While it is got, various floral designs on it, it's it's armor. It's like he's the big tough guy, calls himself General Rose, and his main power is pheromones. His skin has turned red like a rose, but his main power is pheromones. He doesn't control plants. He has built things that will allow him to control plants from time to time. He's also engineered plants that are very specific things. Like he has a weapon that he can like literally shoot machine gun these seeds into the ground, and after a few seconds, up grows a little sprout critter. And the sprout critter follows his orders, and they've got little seed guns that shoot seeds, and they can shoot seeds into the ground and grow more, or they can shoot them at you and, do damage to you. And then he's got 2 allies that are his, left and right hands. Not the most effective, although one of them was really good at making one player angry, because she was strong, she was tough, and he has his own personal name for her, which is funny because it's not even all that bad a name. It's just really funny. But they were trying to break in to a laboratory that they had actually sort of owned. They were trying to break into the laboratory to get away with something that had been designed there, because technically speaking, they were not directly linked with it. It was a cover corporation that owned this place. So they wanted to get what they wanted, make it look like it was stolen, and so on and so forth. And it turned out to be a plant person, an actually engineered, ground up. Like, the Sproutlings aren't really people. They're animated, they're kind of humanoid, they can shoot seeds, they can kind of fight. He has made giant ones, he has made ones that are better, but he literally had in a cryo chamber basically a tiny, very young girl who was basically a plant. She was created to be, a humanoid plant. Because while they have plant-like powers, his left and right hand, and himself, she is literally the perfection of what he wants the world to be, is plant-based life forms. They can be mobile, they can talk, but he wants them to, work on the environment and, be more symbiotic with the environment. And he doesn't care who he kills to get it that way. But they got her. Her name was Petal. And the player characters ended up with her, and it changed some of the tone of the game, because it got protected. Although the one who ended up being the most father-like figure to her feeds her super sugary foods for some reason, and it's funny because it's the way he treats it. It's like, I gotta take care of her, because he doesn't trust the other player characters to do it. Not that they couldn't or wouldn't. The players behind those characters might be able to drive their characters to do it, but it amuses me that he was the one who ended up, because he literally is one of those characters that just, you would think he was the last one to adopt a little plant girl. And she got upset because they live in a house, a brownstone, and it has a little yard around it, because it's not a traditional brownstone, but it's got a little yard around it. And she was upset that they mowed the grass, because she could hear the plants screaming. And they're had to explain it to her, very carefully, why the grass was mowed, why it was screaming, and she wasn't very happy about it at all. But it was a fun NPC to have, because it changed their perception of some things. He was not their favorite villain, General Rose. Although I think his left hand or right hand, one of those people, was a very good villain for that particular PC who adopted Petal. But it's just interesting to me to see how things work out when you can get them to connect to a community. whether that's one figure in the community, like a significant other, or a villain foe of theirs that just keeps coming back and annoying them. That's not necessarily going to kill them or hurt them, but has the means and needs to want to do harm. Not necessarily grievous harm, just like J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man. They have a conflicted relationship. But J. Jonah Jameson isn't going to go out and kill Spider-Man most of the time. Every once in a while, he gets a crazy idea in his head and, hires somebody to take on Spider-Man to show he's a criminal. Which to me is kind of backwards, but it's the way J. Jonah Jameson's brain works. But I like tying in the community into gaming. Now, to wrap this up, I'm going to cover the fact that why I haven't been doing many videos or interacting much on Google Plus or the like. A lot of it has to do with my depression. It has gotten stronger lately. I don't know if it's a medication not working or if it's just something off. I have been unable to read. I have been unable to focus on writing or drawing, which both are forms of escapism for me. And all three, actually. Reading is an important one. And, the only one that's been working lately is gaming. And I recently joined a costume club to make a Mandalorian costume. I'm not an official member because the way they work is a little different than I expected, but it works for them, apparently. You only become an official member when you have a costume that can be approved. And I'm here going, I have the crafty skills of a turtle. I mean, a sea turtle. I can kind of move the sand around, but you're not getting a sand castle from me. So it's been very challenging. And I don't have the money that some people have to just go out and buy every part. So I actually need to have parts built and would like to have a hand in it, but some of this stuff is just, I don't know how to do. I don't know how to sew. My mom knows how to sew, but I don't know how to sew. And I did ask to learn once, many, many years ago, because I thought it'd be useful to sew costumes. Because I liked Halloween costumes and that, but I always wanted my own, I wanted something that wasn't cheap and store-bought. And, and nowadays you can get some pretty cool things. But back then, it was, the little plastic molded mask and with a rubber band. It wasn't these big, huge rubber things that you can pull over your head. But I've joined the Mandalorians as an unofficial member, and I'm trying to get my costume together. I think it will help me go to more cons, which is, that are outside the immediate role-playing community. But I'm talking to my doctor and see, what's going on. Why am I more depressed? Why am I not able to get more things done that I used to be able to get done? So that's kind of leading into this. Depression wants me to isolate myself. It wants me to separate myself from my community, from my friends, from my, loved ones. And it's very hard to resist that, which is why gaming and the costuming stuff has come up, because that allows me to interact with people and, reach out, be sort of, actively fighting that isolation element that depression does to me. But it has taken away me reading, me writing, and me drawing as of late. Also watching TV, even TV that I really like, I watched all the episodes of this one series, but the last episode. And I'm like, I need to watch that episode, but I can't ever bring myself to go and play it off the DVR. I just don't have the energy or the spoons or whatever you want to say about it. I just don't have the focus ability to get it done. And that's tough. So that's why I haven't been as active as lately. online in some places. I've been really active on Facebook, but that's mostly for close friends and people I really worry about and care about. And it's one of the things that, and authors, there's some authors I follow there. I'd follow them on Google Plus if I knew what they used as a name or where they're at on Google Plus, because sometimes it's hard to find the right person. But in general, I've been fighting the good fight. I am here. I am still trying to get things done game-wise. It's just taken me longer. And it's very frustrating. You do not know. Especially when I see, I have a friend who's a game writer, and he has put out, 4 games in the last year, or 5. And he's putting out another one very shortly, and he just put out one. I mean, literally, it just went live, a week ago, or a week and a half ago, and he's got another one coming up relatively soon. And yes, admittedly, they use the same base system, and that's not true of Hearts and Souls and High Valor and some of the other things I want to write. So I have more writing to do specifically for genre, but that doesn't mean he's slacked off. He's just very fast getting done what he needs done. And I wish I had that energy. I wish I had the help that some of the authors that I know have. Because, I'll be talking to one author, and he'll go, oh, yeah, I have these 5 people that are all on board, and it's an artist, and this is the thing. And I have an artist who's a friend who's helping me out as he can. But that's not the same thing as actually having an artist on board, as a true team member to help you kick butt, take names, and get that art done. Because he needs to be paid, and I can't pay it directly at this point in time. Doing a Kickstarter eventually to pay all those fees that he should have earned for what he has done for me. But it's just like I'm on the bottom of the list because literally he has to do art for pay to make ends meet. And I understand that artists need to get paid. They work hard. It might take them 10 minutes to draw what you ask. It takes a lot longer to draw what you ask, color it, and ink it, and make it, professional. And there's still a lot of training, a lot of time, and a lot of effort put into something that might only take them a short amount of time. There are some writers like that can churn out a book a month. Usually they're not long books, but there are some that can turn out books a month, And there are some writers in the past who wrote 500 books in their lifetime, or 600 books in their lifetime. And here I am staring at 2 uncompleted manuscripts and half a dozen other uncompleted manuscripts that I just don't have the passion to do anything with right now. Now, the 2 that I mentioned, I have passion for. I want to get them written for various reasons, because they're dealing with superheroes, and I'm in a superhero mood. So, that's kind of the thing. And you'd think that would help me get Hearts and Souls finished, but not yet. It hasn't. So, here's to hoping that things improve. I'm going to do my best from my end. If you want to talk to me, just message me on wherever you know me from, or here on this. I'm going to do some more gaming 10 whatever, 104, 105, wherever we're at, just to talk about gaming, because there are some things, and there are some mistakes that I see over and over and over and over and over again with people who are doing their first game. And sometimes with people who are doing their second game or third game, and they made mistakes with their first game that they're still carrying on. But, to be fair, they felt it was worth enough to continue writing. So, that is kind of important to stick with it. So, I don't know. Anyway, peace, good gaming, and I will talk to you hopefully much sooner through this crazy interweb thing that we have than it has taken since the last actual upload.